We're going to do a little film here on beef short ribs. One of my favourite recipes, very easy to make. Most of the ingredients is probably sitting in your pantry right now. Very few fresh ingredients required. Let's get into it. Alright, so first off we're just going to take our beef ribs and we're going to get them to room temperature. And then all our ingredients, which I'll put up for you, we'll just put in this pan, and we're going to sort of reduce that over about a 45-minute period. I'll put these just in here. These can up to room temperature. Right, so like I said, ingredients very simple. Gonna get the rind of 2 limes, which I've sort of just done here. Beautiful, look at that, smells good. In 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. I find that the longer you cook, the more of your flavour that you need, because it tends to dissipate the longer you'll cook. So these beef ribs are going to go in for about 5 or 6 hours. Had it been a nice short cook, probably 1 or 2 of these cloves would have been alright to get that garlic taste, but we'll be cooking over 5 or 6 hours. So we're going to put 5 or 6 cloves in there. I love chili, so I'm going to put in 1 to 2 tablespoons of chili, 3 or 4 tablespoons of honey, nice sized dollop of butter, some olive oil. We've got some rice wine vinegar here. I'm going to put in a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire, a cup of soy sauce, and a teaspoon of ginger. That'll be it for our ingredients. We'll whack them in the pan, and 45 minutes later we're going to have a glaze. So a couple of ingredients I forgot last time just to mention is 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and a shot of coffee. So we'll put that in here, and and we're ready to go. So we'll put this over a low heat, get it to quite a low simmer over about 30 to 45 minutes. Really stink out the house. So she's all in there simmering away. It's been on for about 5 or so minutes there. And just let this continue all the way through till it's nice and sticky. Normally I'd be putting in around 5 or 6 bird's eye chilies plus something a fair bit hotter. I find that the heat over these longer cooks tends to dissipate. If you don't like heat, then really you don't need the chilies, but I would always recommend at least 1 of the bird's eyes. Over a 5 or 6 hour smoke, you're not going to taste the actual heat from it, but it does add depth of flavour to your glaze and sauce. Right, so we're about 45 minutes in, and this is really thickened up. So we're going to really whisk this now and sort of get it into some type of emulsification. Probably reduced by about 30 or so percent from when we first started. Righty, so what we have here just before we put the marinade on is a little rub. Very basic one here. You can use your favourite, but all I have here is 1 part garlic powder, 1 part onion, some chili flakes which I found, and a tablespoon of salt. And we are just going to rub that on all of the beef here. Here we have our marinade. She's just cooling down a bit, looking very nice. But whilst, just before we put that on, we will get all the charcoal ready to put on the Kamado. So let's have a walk around. I've got a little setup here in the garage. So, now this is some of the best charcoal I've seen. Old Hung Dan here from Vietnam, but check out the size of these things. Some of the best 20 kilos of charcoal I've ever bought. Absolutely perfect. So we'll put a couple of these in. Right, so we've had these marinating now for about an hour, and this house smells like a fantasy, Asian fantasy. We've got the acidity coming through, we've got the honey and a sweet, sweet smell of honey wafting through the house, that strong scent of garlic and chilies and ginger and everything else. So this is getting quite exciting. Got the fire outside, it's just sort of getting up to temperature now, and we'll whack the wood on, we'll get it smoking, and we will commence the cook. Right, so we've got our charcoal going now. We're going to put this red gum on. We're going to wait for it to get up to temperature, and we should see some smoke pretty soon. Righty, so these bad boys have just been put on. We're going to shut this up, shut shop, and we'll come back in a little bit, keep pasting them, and we'll see how they turn out. Pretty excited for this one. Righty, so these bad boys went on 180 to 200. I cooked a few, but I still use a thermometer to sort of test the temperature on these bad boys. But as you see, that's how they went on. I cooked these for about 5 hours. Yeah, and then they looked like this. And at this point I wrapped them. So wrapping them at this point for another 2 hours, and then took them off, rested them for another 90 minutes. So absolutely superb. Internal temperature 202 over a total time of about 8 hours. Moist as fuck. Loved it. This is what they look like. Look at that. Holy moly. Holy moly indeed. More moist than the front lawn of a Toorak mansion. So look, do yourself a favour. Get out those pantry ingredients, lubricate up the mouth of your significant other, and cook yourself up some Big Biz sticky ribs.